Hunley has the whole monopoly. I don't know who that son of a bitch thinks he is.
Welcome to Laid Back Law with your favorite lawyers from around the interwebs.
No. Piers Morgan is doing the hide my boner lean. Look at him.
I think this is actually the first time that a billionaire cut safety standards, and it was the billionaire themselves that died.
And that's what made Poliere's, I don't even know how to pronounce this guy's name.
Poliere.
I'm board certified criminal trial law in Florida. I'm your man. Of course, you have to compensate me.
Discussing the most pressing of topics every Friday at noon Eastern Time.
I did this way before him. I had the big brain panel before Eric Hunley even existed.
And here we are. I guess we're in the little brain panel. Or at least I'm the little brain, and I'm bringing brains to help me out. First time this week, we have Phil Holloway. Can you introduce yourself, man?
Hey, great to be here. Great to be with this awesome panel as well. Yeah, I'm Phil Holloway. I'm a lawyer in the metro Atlanta area. I do almost exclusively criminal law. Occasionally I'll dabble in a few other things, but more or less that's it. I've been doing that for, if I want to date myself, I've been almost 30 years now. So this is a busy time for me in the metro Atlanta area, particularly in Fulton County, as we're following all things Fani Willis these days. But of course, we also have a lot of other interesting things in the news to talk about, and I look forward to getting into it today.
For sure. Now, Phil may be hiding his light under the bushel, so to speak, but he is the guy who broke the Fani Willis or Nathan Wade texts, if you will, or Bradley texts. I get confused with all the players. So.
It's easy to get confused.
Well, and thankfully, I'm glad you were here to help with that, because I've been so caught up, especially with the other trial that just finished earlier this week, the Rust trial, with a guilty verdict for Hannah Gutierrez. Technically, it's Hannah Gutierrez, not Hannah Gutierrez Reed. That was a bit of a conflict in the filings. I'm not sure if you guys have been following it all. I think Steve did for a while. I don't know if he continued to or what was going on. But I'll go to Steve. What are your thoughts about the verdict and what went down?
I don't think it's too surprising, right? This shouldn't have happened. And she was in the path, the critical path, and had the responsibility to execute the safety checks. And it doesn't appear she did it. Maybe there's still a little mystery on who brought the round there, but there's not a lot of mystery on the fact that there was extreme negligence in the jury. It was up to the jury, right, to decide whether that was to a criminal level or not. And they did. As it went on, I felt a little bad for her, because she shouldn't have been hired for that job, right? There were a lot of people who fell down on this and didn't take safety seriously. I know we talked about the juror at the end of this who worked at Los Alamos and talking about safety, but you've got to have a culture of that if you're ever going to have successful safety on a site. It has to start at the top. It didn't on this thing. It didn't start at the top. It didn't come up from the bottom. It didn't seem to be present anywhere. So while I think it's no travesty of justice for her to pay a penalty for this, there should be other people doing it too. And we'll see how that goes, I suppose.
Well, let's talk about the juror for a second, because, I mean, especially Phil, you work at criminal law. So if you are trying a case and it involves something like, safety checks and expertise on a film set, would you want on the jury someone who works at Los Alamos, the nuclear testing grounds, with a commercial driver's license, and potentially someone who is carrying the nukes around? Would you want that guy on your jury?
Well, that sounds like a juror who's going to be really hyper focused on, safety protocols. So maybe from the defense perspective, maybe I wouldn't. It's like reading tea leaves, trying to pick a jury and decide, who the hell do I want on there? And you're looking at their background, you're looking at the answers that they give you. But at the end of the day, we lawyers just don't know really what's in the minds of jurors until they reach a verdict. When it comes to cases involving firearms, see, I got mixed feelings. My background is in law enforcement. I've been around firearms my entire life. And, I still go through the police training every year to keep up my certification in that regard. So I'm very safety conscious when it comes to firearms. And so when I look at this Rust situation, the first thing I think, triggers do not pull themselves, and guns don't load themselves either. Some human being had to do that. And if you know that it's going to be pointed at somebody and it's going to be used on a set, you better be damn sure that, it's not loaded with a live round and it's otherwise safe and secure. So the other thing, though, that conflicts me on this, that I've got mixed feelings about, and this is just basically as an attorney, you've got this, you got things that are clearly criminal, right? When you've got the malicious intent or things like that to commit a crime, you intentionally pull a trigger. That's obviously an easy thing for a jury to decipher. But in a civil case where there's a car crash or somebody gets shot, even, or something based in negligence, in other words, there's a duty to use reasonable care. The question is, did the person breach their duty to use reasonable care? That's like a civil standard, but then you've got this gray area in the middle where you're talking about, gross negligence, which is still civil, or even criminal negligence, which is now in the criminal sort of arena. And there is just no good, clear way to decide whether or not something is civil in terms of negligence, or is it so negligent that it becomes criminal? I suppose that's what we say would be in the eye of an enlightened jury to decide. But in any event, it's a tough thing for people to try to sort out when they're prosecuting those cases, when they're defending these cases, and of course, when they're sitting on the jury.
No, Ian, I'm going to go to you on that because you're a federal prosecutor.
Yeah.
How do you determine it? Like the Rust case is very interesting. I know you didn't follow it that much, but you have a case of the direct players, so a chain of custody of the actual gun and the bullets and the bullet that killed. But then you have the producers who created this environment, who did all that. Would that be the separation potentially between the criminal, like the one who loaded the weapon and then the civil could be a wider net to include those who created the environment and might have responsibility?
I really like what Phil said. I think that's one of the areas in law that is so nebulous and so difficult. The difference between criminal negligence and civil negligence, and oftentimes they're compensated in both ways. In other words, there's someone who goes to jail for criminal negligence, and also, unfortunately, his insurance company has to pay a verdict relating to that too. So it's really difficult. I think this is what's interesting about the law to me. When I went to law school, I used to think that we would just follow the law and the judges would just follow the law. There wasn't as much in the nature of a judgment call. And this is one of those situations where you're like, there's a lot of gaps, and it has to do with politics. It has to do with whose motivations, who's going to be the fall guy. And that's one of the things that I thought was interesting about this case was it wasn't super captivating. I mean, I know a lot of people were really embedded. They were doing live streams and all that stuff. But as far as the public consciousness, I didn't see that this particular trial was super people were really aware of what was going on. And I'm wondering, this is the question I had for you, Eric, because you're just super into this. What do you think the ramifications are of this to the Alec Baldwin trial, which I believe is going to be coming up in the summer? What is this going to be more likely that he's going to be found liable, guilty, however you want to say it? Or do you think that this is actually going to take away some of his, or give him more sympathy?
I think it's going to help him, because the fact that, well, I will just tell you how I would plead it as a non-lawyer who's clueless. I would say, you have the people who did this. There they are. That guy took a plea, the first assistant director. He's in charge of safety on the set. Here's the person who loaded the weapon. I am an actor. They handed this to me. They are the professionals. I trusted these professionals, and I got this gun. What do you want me to do? You're only punishing me because I'm a big name with a big pocketbook, and it brings press to your silly little state.
Oh, Eric, and then in cross, I would ask him, not to point.
Okay, first off,
not to point the gun, right?
I'm talking about Alec's case. If Alec Baldwin is dumb enough to be cross-examined by Carrie Morrissey with her personality, which I have had firsthand experience with, and his personality, that is combustible, all bets are off. If he takes the stand, then I will not make any kind of prediction other than he's probably screwed, because I could just see him going off.
Forget him taking the stand. He's made enough out-of-court statements, and I don't know how these would be admissible. So Phil, Ian, Southern Law, Steve, the statements that he's made out of court. I know not to point a gun at someone. I would never have pulled the trigger. I didn't check. I know that, this protocol, you got to check, or he said you don't have to check the gun. I forgot what he said about that. But these out of court statements, could they get them in as evidence?
Yeah.
Is it hearsay though? Because
It's,
you can't have him.
it's admission of a party opponent, just like when they were showing Hannah's statements to the police.
But
So,
the reason
yeah,
why I
so
asked that
Eric,
is,
it's an,
okay. I was going to say the reason why I asked that is I literally have dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of texts that were going between Seth Kinney and Sarah Zachary,
but they're not a
Hannah
party
Reid
to
and-
they're not party in the case though.
Well,
A
Hannah Reid is.
party admission against
She is,
him.
Yeah, well, I have texts between her and Seth Kinney, and both were there. So I'm just saying, and none of these were able to get in. So for whatever reason, the judge seemed to really push hard on hearsay. And you, in the trial, if you watched it, you'd hear hearsay, 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 here. Like they were almost terrified, and they were really stymied.
He's going to get so screwed because of those statements that he made out of court. He said he knows not to point the gun at a person, would never do that. No. He said he didn't pull the trigger. And then he's going to say, well, they gave me a loaded gun and how am I supposed to know? He's the producer. So he can't even get out of it for having pulled the trigger. He was the one who brought these people onto the set. He hired negligent people. And then he, used these
hire Hannah. No, I mean, I want to get really specific on the facts. It's important.
Because, I know his excuse that I'm only a producer in name.
Well, no, he is a creative producer, and I could tell you what his role is or is not. He has say on script. He has say on the dates. He has say on like some of the hiring in terms of they'd ask him, "Are you okay working with this cinematographer or this other actor?" He didn't have any say on which crew members were hired. Those were hired by Gabrielle Pickle and people like that. And by the way, there were no charges against Gabrielle Pickle.
He didn't mind yelling on set at Hannah, the armor. Why don't you have two guns? What the hell's going on? You should be loading this faster. He didn't mind exerting his authority at times like that. And to follow up on what Phil said, he not only pulled the trigger, he had to cock this gun. I mean, this is a single action revolver.
Dude, I totally agree with it, but I'm just saying you can't say he hired people when he didn't hire people. That's fair. I want to be very, very, very specific. And I'm not saying that Alec bears no responsibility. That was devastating testimony when he said, "Come on, move it, Hannah, go." That is very, very damaging.
Yep.
But is it criminal?
That's a mute button, though. I love watching him and mine.
I'm an idiot. Hannah Gutierrez. So she was convicted, and now she's being detained or held pending. No.
That's normal, though. That's normal.
Okay. Yeah, she was remanded immediately, and a lot of people were upset about it.
How did she get remanded?
No, she hasn't been sentenced yet.
She hasn't been. She's been detained pending sentencing.
Yeah,
is the word detained?
I'm misinformed because I read she got a couple of years probation out of it or something.
No, I don't think that's happening.
No. That was Dave Hall's.
Yeah, she's being held until sentencing.
Correct.
So it's weird because sentencing. Sentencing could, in theory, be no jail time. It could be probation. No?
It could be.
So why would they be holding her?
The judge said flat out, "Somebody
you're
died.
going to jail.
Yeah.
Somebody died."
Well,
and I think this is one of the reasons.
By the way, the judge decides his sentence. So I have a funny feeling that the judge kind of signaled that there's going to be a sentence of some kind.
Well, it might be that the judge just going ahead and getting that out of the way now. He's going to let her out when he does sentencing. I've got a problem unless somebody's got a significant criminal history. I've got a problem with putting him in jail for a negligent death like this.
Yes.
At least for any extended period.
Well, there's another charge against her that's coming up too about brandishing a firearm in a bar. And that has a minimum of 18 months. So no, I'm just saying, so there's some pattern behavior.
Now her sentencing is next month, right?
Yeah, April, yes.
Yeah, so the judge could give her a short period, and this is going to count toward that, right? The time
it counts for time and a half, or does it not count for time and a half?
Why would it be time and a half?
Because it's pre-sentencing. I think pre-sentencing it wouldn't count for like.
No, I don't get extra time. No.
Now, that would be up to the local jail, though.
You get it for pre-trial detention. So I don't know. Maybe you got for pre-sentencing,
or is that a state thing?
Whether or not somebody gets good time credit, 2 for 1 or even 3 for 1 depends on what's going on in the local jurisdiction. Even here in the state of Georgia, it varies from one county to the next, and oftentimes it's up to the sheriff who's in charge of the jail what their policy is. Sometimes they do give 2 for 1, on certain types of offenses, and maybe they don't on another. So it's going to be entirely, but like in a local jail here in Georgia, if you're convicted of a felony and you're sitting in the local jail, and let's say you got a year to serve, they may or may not take you to the state system, but because it's a state sentence, because it's a felony, the Georgia Department of Corrections decides when you get paroled. The sheriff has no role. So it just kind of depends, I think, on what the rules are in that specific jurisdiction.
I want to point something out. This is one of the great ironies in this chat brought up. Brandishing a firearm in a bar has an 18-month minimum. Her current sentence is an 18-month maximum. So somebody died and the maximum sentence is 18 months. You brandish a gun in a bar in New Mexico, the minimum sentence is 18 months.
Yeah, but that may not be in jail. A minimum sentence of 18 months could be probation.
Okay, I guess.
This is like, for example, in Georgia, let's say aggravated assault, pointing a gun at somebody, it's 1 to 20, but you could get 20 years on probation or you could get 20 years in prison. So,
and I think you're looking at an intentional act versus a negligent act there too, Eric.
Correct. Very, very different things, I think.
I still, at a high level, as a civilian, it just rings weird to me because it's like, wait, what? Let me see. We've got the y'all got to understand what it means to be a producer on the set. It doesn't always mean what you think it means. For the love of God, it brings me on. I think that's going to have to be part of Alec Baldwin's trial. They will need to bring in some experts to say, this is this producer, this is, because it's kind of like the definition of a prop has been brought into question because of the Rust trial. They kept, they say prop gun, and people didn't realize they thought that a prop gun was like not even a starter pistol, but like a rubber pistol,
rubber gun.
Whatever. Yeah. Exactly. But they don't realize that a prop just means that it's owned by the property department. So, for example, if you have a golf club in a movie, it is a real golf club and it is a prop. It's the same thing with a firearm, which is really, it's a prop, but it's also a working firearm.
My golf clubs are definitely props.
Perfect.
I'm surprised they're in the back of your background there.
Yeah, there you go. Are you visiting the Rust set? No, wait a minute. No, that's Grand Canyon, isn't it? I don't know.
Oh, me? Oh no, this is
Red Rock.
Utah. This is right outside of Snow Canyon.
Okay.
Are you there now? It's beautiful.
Yeah. How do you have a big chair out there?
Green screen.
I took this photo the last time I went hiking down there. I actually used to have a hiking channel because most people don't get out in the Southwest and they don't get out very much. And so I wanted to show people out east, the ignorant folk out there who think this is just fly-by country, what they're missing out.
It's the most beautiful place on earth.
It really is.
So you crossed 10,000. Congratulations.
Yay! Yes. You're all invited to the celebration party. It's probably going to be tomorrow, probably. So It'll be a lot of fun.
All right. Well, before we wrap up, Russ, since I know you were covering it for a lot of days, are you satisfied with the verdict and what happened?
I think that the verdict is reasonable. I think that a reasonable jury could come to that verdict given the performance of the defense attorney. I think that what the defense attorney really needed to focus on was on intervening causation, teaching the jury about that because nobody understood that. And you heard that in the interviews after the fact, right? Now, reasonable attorneys can disagree. I am the minority. I am the 1 out of 10, okay, who's going to say, I think that she was a scapegoat. I agree with the defense's argument there. I think that there should be no such thing as a part-time armor. I think that the standard should be much higher, but I don't think that that standard or the concept of a part-time armorer was even in play at the time that she was hired. And the onus and the responsibility put on her, if we want strict liability, they need to change the law to make it strict liability. And they need to make the standard very clear because it was clear based on their own expert testimony that it is not clear where that line is. However, everybody wants to jump to, she's the armor, so she's in charge of ammo, she's in charge of guns. It's all on her, which is not unreasonable. However, set that standard out from the get-go. Don't put it on a 24-year-old to figure that out herself.
By the way, it's interesting because Brian Carpenter, the armorer who was called in as an expert, did state that that's become a new trend, the multi-job, which really surprised me. However, I will step back and say that traditionally, the armorer position didn't always exist. The proper prop master often is an expert in armor as well. You know, they're trained on it. So let's say you have a movie that has a pistol, you know, like there's a legal movie, somebody gets killed in the beginning through a gunshot. In that case, the prop master, if they have the experience, might be the armor, because that's the only, you know, very low amount of guns. In this movie, he did state there not only shouldn't it have been part-time, but really there should have probably been 2 armorers.
Yeah, and
all guns all the time.
Right. The example he gives, though, of finding the live rounds on set is when there were 2 armorers. The first guy took the box, unloaded it, loaded up the weapons, was ready to go. He picked up that same box and said, wait a second, the weight is off. Went outside, undid all of the ammunition, took a look at it and said, holy crap, these are live rounds. Everybody pause, and was able to put a stop to that movie. And he said if he wasn't there and he didn't have 2 armors, it's likely someone may have gotten hurt then. From my perspective, I don't think it's reasonable or foreseeable that an armorer who trained Alec Baldwin, a guy who was raised with guns, a guy who had experience, who was trained on the set, who everybody attested to him being trained, would then aim a gun directly at a cinematographer and pull the trigger. Nobody could have foreseen that happening. I think that's an intervening cause. So I'm in the minority. I'll shut up now.
I don't know that you are.
It's a damn good argument. I'm ready to convict Baldwin right now.
Well, that's my question. Do you think
Baldwin needs to be convicted, but he's going to get off on it now?
Thank you. I have a feeling.
They're going to say, well, it was the armorer's fault, and she's already been convicted. So
and Dave Halls, 2 people convicted.
Yep.
Is there any suspicion out there that this is all kind of planned, like for her to be
it's totally
the
planned.
scapegoat? Okay.
Totally planned, in my opinion, but
it's obviously coordinated. I mean, I could tell you about the coordination right now, and watch the chat light up. If you guys are watching the chat, watch this. The plan also was to pin it on Seth Kenney.
Okay,
now the chat's going to light up.
Deserves to have it pinned on him. Seth Kenney holds a ton of liability. As a matter of fact, in my opinion, if there's any criminal liability, it should be against Seth. He needs to lose his freaking license. How the hell he still has an FFL is beyond me. But that's just a testament to the incompetence of the ATF. So
I'm going to predict that Baldwin gets convicted, but for him pulling the trigger, none of this happens. How was I supposed to know there was a bullet in there? You're not supposed to pull the trigger while pointing at somebody. He's getting convicted. I'm standing by that, regardless of what the evidence shows.
Interesting.
Like a good lawyer.
I hope you're right. Viva.
No, I think he will. I mean, it's true. The intervening cause could have gotten Hannah off, but because Hannah got convicted, doesn't mean that he didn't pull the trigger, knowing that you never point at somebody and pull a trigger.
Wait, you don't even have guns in Canada, man.
No, I had a Nerf gun. And I pulled the trigger and I shot my kid in the butt with it. And we both learned a lesson.
Well, here's the biggest irony: the biggest gun guy lawyer that I know of is Ian Runkle, who's Canadian.
Yep.
No, I mean, that's what Ian does. He's like a competitive shooter, does all of it. Ian Runkle, I'm sorry.
Not me. No, yeah.
So,
I don't know.
Danny, it'll be interesting then.
The standard needs to be heightened.
I'm going to eventually probably have a very long interview with Seth Kenney, just everything, because there's a lot more to everything that's going on than you realize. Text transfers, things
so much more to add, bro. Like, I mean, the fact is that the guy doesn't even take inventory. He's so cash, right? Like, I don't need to know how many bullets I've got. Like, I can just look. Yeah, we don't need to get any more. We're good.
But hold on a second. Is Seth Kenney officially out of risk? He made a plea deal.
No deal.
Has he been charged?
No.
Well, when does he? And I don't know the answer to this. When does he become safe from potential prosecution? I mean, he might not ever talk.
He's pretty much safe. I mean, even the defense's PI, whose whole job was to criticize the investigation, he was a really late witness. Anyway, even he, when confronted by Kerry Morrissey and Cross, admitted that no, they had nothing, that they had to let it go, because yes, they did pursue him. And that was a defense witness. That was a defense witness.
Yep. And not even destruction of evidence, because Sarah never testified to calling Seth Kenney first before throwing away ammunition and throwing away rounds on set.
That Sarah thing is weird. And if Sarah did that, it doesn't mean that Seth necessarily did this. And I love how people put it together.
I agree with you.
But people say it's automatic. Oh, and come on now, that's not necessarily correct. I thought it was weird. I don't know why she threw dummies away. If she threw away expended blanks, makes perfect sense, but dummies is weird. There's no reason to throw away a dummy because you can reuse that. Hell, it would harm Seth because he would re-rent that potentially later too.
And
so
he
that's
told her not to. And she was already out of the habit of throwing them away by the time she threw them away. And she testified that she doesn't understand or remember the sequence of events. It's all very confusing. Okay, well then it's more likely to my mind, it's more likely than not that she called Seth Kenny. Seth Kenny went, oh shit. Okay, she heard him go, oh shit, and either independently or was told to go throw away stuff.
Yes, and by the way, Sarah did have immunity.
She was given
Seth
immunity.
did not.
Yep.
I don't know that she necessarily should have been given immunity. That one is questionable. Seth never was. He was at risk. I can tell you, I was at risk too. Believe me, I've been on the other line with other side of a phone call with Carrie Morrissey. So just trust me. She's not mellow, but we're almost to 2,000 people watching. I hope you guys hit like. And since we've got the number up, I don't want to dwell on Rust for too long. The main billing is
bring on the Fanny. Bring on the Fanny.
The famous Fani. So Fani, it's spelled like Danny, but I guess it said funny.
Yeah, because everyone was pronouncing it Fanny, and it was the butt of jokes.
Well, hey, I will give that to her. At least she is smart enough to say her name differently, unlike, let's say, a certain former congressman named Wiener. I would say, that's an old German name, Weiner. What are you talking about?
Eric, she doesn't go by Fani.
Oh,
she goes by Fanny, right?
No, she doesn't even go by. She goes by Madam District Attorney. I'm not joking. It's absolutely true. She requires people in the office. People I know, a lot of people work down there. She makes them call her Madam District Attorney. And
I thought she was.
I can show you an email that she sent even prior to taking office. When she was the district
please
attorney
screen
elect,
share that.
she signed her email, Madam District Attorney elect.
Yeah, even Nathan Wade calls her that.
Can you imagine?
No, he calls her something else.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure he calls her something else.
Just
There's
some
little byplay.
He's calling her Madam. I have no doubt.
I'm sure. I'm sure. He
we all
probably
know
has pet names for her.
You do. Phil, am I wrong? He had Madam Grip in his cell phone for Fani Willis's cell number.
No. Okay, by the way, no. Stop. I tried to correct you on that, David. That was Hannah Gutierrez's cell phone, which was Gorilla Grip Pussy Pal.
Right.
What? But the clip that I saw.
But no. They misattributed it. They misattributed Hannah Gutierrez's cell phone with Fani Willis. People ran with her like her phone is, and it was actually the other case. It was
Who
the
hasn't
case.
confused those two? It seems like perfectly normal.
Well, I guess, except the difference is that was actually Hannah's phone, not Nathan's phone.
Oh,
now
I wonder if Hannah's been down to the Hapeville condo, the Love Shack. I don't know. Let's see.
Well, it would be funny because now if it was in Nathan's phone and that was his entry for Fani, that would be funny.
Wait, Eric, I'm sharing the link here. We can watch it again in the private chat here. This.
Yeah, I know about it. It was the defense
expert. That's the expert in. Oh my goodness!
It's the expert in the Rust trial. They got into trouble because he doxed the phone number for Hannah Gutierrez, and she was getting phone calls, and that caused the attorney to get fired on the defense team. Trust me on this. Danny, you watched it too. It is that phone, right?
Yeah, it is.
So I can share that to you, but this is actually the. And that's why I was texting you on Sunday when you brought it up.
Yeah, but then you texted me, and then I thought someone I saw that during our stream Sunday when someone said we got the wrong grip, and then I thought that
is found on line 32.
This is the expert from the Hannah Gutierrez case.
Correct.
Okay, well,
that's a prosecution expert on day 2.
444.
I don't remember where I said it.
And that's where he gave the phone number out. You see how he gave that phone number out?
It's
still worth seeing.
The name that would appear on, say, a Bluetooth device is found on line 32, which is Gorilla Grip Pussy Pal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is 9.
So who gave Hannah? Is that the name she gave herself, or the name the guy gave
her phone name? She named her phone
you
that.
can nickname your phone. So my devices are all nicknamed.
Yeah, like
So
mine
you can
just says
nickname
Eric Hunley's, phone or whatever it is. Most people it's just like whatever their name is or
Mine says
username.
FBI surveillance van.
Oh, that's my Wi-Fi.
Are you kidding? That's mine, but I'm van number 12. It literally is true.
Really? Wait, hold on. Southern Law, you're unmarked van number 12?
Yeah, so FBI surveillance van number 12 is my Wi-Fi. I can't believe that's like everybody. I got to do something better than that.
My phone is also called Gorilla Pussy Grip. How did that happen? Oh dear God! All right.
Okay, so sorry to hijack that. Okay, so Phil, fill us in, I guess. On what is going on with can you do a quick preamble, like super fast, and then what the current state is this week, because it seems to be a moving target.
A quick preamble.
You can't do a quick
How far back?
Just a general then. What's going on? It's so confusing.
All right, so we still have the Fani Willis fiasco or saga or debacle, whatever you want to call it, front and center. Unfortunately, the court system where I live is now the laughing stock of the entire world.
It is.
Because the elected district attorney of Fulton County, is having sex with her boyfriend, who is the special prosecutor that she assigned, of course, to prosecute the former president and a whole bunch of other people. And she's allegedly steering a bunch of money to him. He's making over $700,000, I think, so far, of no bid contract kind of money that she's steering him. And of course, she's benefiting from taking trips around the world, trips to Napa Valley, trips to the Caribbean, cruises, you name it. He is spending that money lavishly, according to what's come out in court, on Fani Willis. Of course, she claims, though, that she didn't benefit from that because she paid him all back in cash, cold, hard, untraceable cash. Now, the big issue is for the judge to decide is, does she, in fact, have a conflict of interest to the point that it requires not only her, but everybody who works under her or lays under her to be dismissed or recused or taken off the case. But the bigger question
lays under her?
He worked.
Other than that, should the indictment be dismissed?
And Phil, quick question, because this is my love, as the standard part. I've done the research. I've looked at opinions. What is the standard? Actual conflict of interest or appearance of impropriety?
I'm in the camp of appearance of impropriety is enough, because it's the kind of thing that would call into question the validity, if you will, of the process, enough to cause the judge, grave concerns about the fairness of the proceedings. I think that's enough. But even so, I believe they've shown an actual conflict of interest. But now, though, we're beyond that. We are beyond whether it's a conflict of interest. I think that's clear. But now we have pretty good proof, pretty good evidence. And in my opinion, the evidence supports the fact that she has lied under oath. And you can't do that. As a lawyer, we all know that even if you're under oath or not, you can't lie to the judge. And if you do, you can go to jail, but you can be disbarred. Lying to the court is perjury. That's a felony crime. It's also a violation of her oath of office, which in Georgia, that's also a crime. Carries up to 5 years in prison if you're an elected official and you violate your oath of office.
Is that a basis for disqualification? No one disputes the fact that it's bad. But is that a basis under Georgia law? Okay.
Yeah, because what it does is it's if you engage in felonious behavior in order to prosecute a case, then you got to come off the case. It's really just that simple. And
however extrinsic, could you argue however extrinsic? Because isn't there a difference between lying substantively related to the prosecution of Donald Trump and the other defendants, and then lying about the fact that you paid your bill, but you actually dined and dashed?
Well, I don't think you can separate all of it out, because now we have it's beyond that, though. Now there's evidence. The chief assistant district attorney in neighboring Cobb County, a lady I've known for almost 30 years now, she has come forward and she's provided information to some of the defense team. She said, look, I watched this nonsense on TV or online or wherever she watched it, and it's not true. In fact, she says that she has personal knowledge that back last spring, Fani Willis was called on his phone Nathan Bradley, the former law partner and I guess perhaps at some point attorney for Nathan Wade, Fani's boyfriend in his divorce. She heard Fani Willis call Nathan Wade, she says, and she overheard Fani Willis telling Nathan Wade basically to keep his mouth shut about things he knows about how she awards the money to these independent contractors.
Well, how did she hear that? She heard that. She heard that through the phone as Terrence Bradley's talking to Fani.
Yeah. And so maybe it was on speakerphone. Maybe it was, she knows Fani Willis and recognizes the voice. Mm-hmm. And so she has personal knowledge that Fani Willis herself called and tampered with a witness. And so if you're willing to tamper with a witness so that defense counsel can't adequately prosecute their motion, then you got to go. You just have to come off the case. And it's really no more complicated than that, guys.
So I mean, I want to push back on that, and don't get me wrong. I think Fani Willis is one of the most egregious displays of corruption that I've seen in a long time. As far as the appearances that she's presented, a lot of people talk about that her overhearing that statement. If you listen to the statement, though, this is Fani Willis talking on a phone to Terrence Bradley, who she has a contract with Terrence Bradley, that taint contract. And she's like, and she says that, and the actual words she happened to choose, unfortunately, is she didn't say there's no reason for you to talk to them, meaning the media, about me and Nathan. She says there's no reason for you to talk to them about us.
Yeah, and she was talking about the defense lawyers, though.
I just want to point out, it's in the context of her saying they're coming after us, and it could be for the way she spent money on Bradley on his contract. And while you and I would certainly agree that what she actually meant was me and Nathan, the actual words that Miss Yeager heard was coming. You don't have to talk to them anything about us, which means if they come to you talking to you about the contract, you don't need to talk about that relationship, about our contractual relationship, and because that has come up in the context of that she hired Nathan's partner, has come up in the context of this whole thing. She might have predicted that the media would try to come after them, and if McAfee is trying to find a basis to give her every benefit of the doubt to keep her in this case, he could potentially hang his hat on the fact that she happened to choose the word us as saying that had nothing to do with the romantic relationship per se. Is that not true? It's possible that he could try. I don't think it would be a proper reading by him, but if he's trying to give her the benefit of the doubt, don't.
Yeah, well, I mean, I suppose if you're just looking for a reason to deny the defense motion, you can find something. If you want to, there's always something judges can hang their hat on to justify a ruling, whichever way he decides to go. But whether she's talking about us, meaning Bradley and Willis or anybody else who could be the us that you can't tell witnesses not to talk. You can't tell witnesses not to talk to the defense team that's investigating their case. You just can't do that. No more than I could go tell somebody not to talk to the cops in a case where I'm representing a criminal defendant.
Because the argument's going to be here, this was still in the context of the RICO case, though not in the context of her motion to disqualify, so therefore impermissible.
That's a great point.
Yeah, because
I'm not as smart as you. That will never matter.
No, because this is saying some people are thinking, well, she hadn't yet filed her motion to disqualify, but they were still defendants in the RICO case, and so she is talking to Terrence Bradley after that RICO case had been brought. So she is talking to a potential witness, telling them what to do in the context of the broader RICO charges.
Yeah, well, she knew that because this came out after a Washington Examiner story came out that suggested that the contracts were being scrutinized by the defense. And it was no secret at the time to Fani Willis that Ashley Merchant had been doing open records requests to get the actual contracts and the pay receipts and all that. So she knew it was Ashley Merchant who was digging around, finding this stuff, and she knew Ashley was preparing to defend her client. She knew that Terrence Bradley had knowledge of it, and she told him to keep quiet. That's really, to me, all you need to understand. That's enough. And that's also a crime, by the way. It's a felony to tamper with a witness if you do it, for corrupt motives and
obstruction.
And corrupt means.
It's obstruction. The same thing she's charging.
It's no witness. It's another felony. You can add to the list.
It's technically
Phil,
the
so I
same.
got a question for you, Phil. I got one quick question for you, Phil, because we don't get a chance to get people that are actually on the ground right there. Tell us about Judge McAfee. One of the things that I have a thought is that a lot of this is theater, and that my understanding is Judge McAfee worked for Fani Willis for a period of time.
That's probably bad for Fani.
Pardon?
That's bad for her.
Okay. All right. But I think that we're thinking that he might adhere to the more stricter standard, actual conflict of interest, and that he has, ambitions for a larger career after this. Are you thinking that he's just going to go the route of not disqualifying her? She can be prosecuted to the end of time for all the different legal violations, but with respect to this specific case, he wouldn't disqualify. What is your thoughts on that?
I look, until he drew some political opposition yesterday, I was pretty squarely in the camp that he's going to grant the motion, because as lawyers, have you ever had a judge, say, Mr. Holloway, you don't need to call that witness. I'm ready to rule. That the judge is telling me that he's ready or she's ready to rule in my favor. In other words, you've said enough. You've convinced me. Don't talk me out of it by putting on more evidence. So this is kind of what he did by telling Steve Sadow, who represents Trump. He told Sadow, let's hold off on an evidentiary hearing regarding the cell phone data. I know it's out there, and we can reopen the evidence if we need to, but I might be able to go ahead and make a ruling based on what I got. I want to hear some arguments on it. To me, that was him signaling that he's already decided that he's going to disqualify her. He had already made some statements that he believed, the judge did, that appearance was enough, appearance of a conflict, but he's also heard testimony. Whether you believe the whole thing with the Bradley and the text and all, you can take that and put it to the side. If he believes a witness named Robin Yurdy, who used to be BFFs with Fani Willis, in fact, did her, she was like her media person that set up all her media appearances because she wanted to become famous after all this. She needed somebody to coordinate all that. So Robin Yurdy, before they had a falling out, Robin Yurdy was allowing Fani to use her condo down in Hapeville, Georgia, down by the Atlanta International Airport. And that is the love nest, by the way, where the cell phones were meeting up and other things were happening. And so Yurdy says, in no uncertain terms, they were dating in 2019. I know it because I saw them hugging and kissing and carrying on like lovers, right? And of course, I'm summarizing. That's basically what she said. And so the judge could rule that, she's been dishonest, that she's perpetrated a fraud on the court, and he could use that as a reason to toss her from the whole thing. What I think might happen is that he tosses her, but he leaves the case. He doesn't dismiss the case. And so if that happens, then I don't know where we're going to go from there. We can talk about it if you want, but
before we stray from Ian mentioning about working under Fani at one point, Phil disabused Mark and I of a notion last Friday that I did not realize, and it was the judge donated $150 for the Fani campaign. However, tell me if I'm saying this correctly, Fani was running against a DA that everybody hated, and they wanted that DA out of the office. So it makes sense that a lot of people donated to the lesser known alternative candidate. And it has nothing to do with saying that they necessarily agree with their politics. It's just to seem better than what they had at the time.
It was $150 where the maximum donation, if you were really bent on Fani, could have been $3,000 or $4,000.
Y'all may or may not be surprised by this. Some people might be shocked. I had in my front yard in the summer of 2020
Don't say it.
a yard
Don't say it, Bill.
for Fani Willis.
Oh my gosh.
No,
Go ahead and repeat that
because
again.
Say it again.
Everybody in the legal community wanted the old guy gone. He's been around for 2 or 3 decades, and he was out there prosecuting police officers for doing their job in the summer of love, the riots of 2020 that we had here in Atlanta. He was literally arresting them on the spot and announcing an indictment the next day or shortly thereafter, because he knew that he was in a tight race with Fani Willis. And so a lot of people who might not really participate in the Democrat primary, because that's what it was. It was a Democrat primary between Willis and the other guy. And a lot of people, particularly in the northern part of the county that might be more red, those people came out in droves for Willis because they wanted to get rid of the other guy so bad. And so this $150 that was donated before he was even a judge doesn't surprise me. I've got countless friends who don't want her to be in office right now, but who supported her the last time. So I don't think that the fact that the judge gave her $150 amounts to a hill of beans.
Go, Danny.
I just think it's sad that it took Fani Willis to really highlight the type of corruption that is going on in DA's offices nationwide. And the corruption that I'm talking about isn't just targeted prosecution. What I'm talking about is exactly the problem with the way that they run their offices in the civil side of things, and how they vet contractors and how they award contracts to local contractors. You guys want to talk about corruption? That's where your tax dollars are going. It's going to foot the bill of people who are sucking off the freaking local DA, who's going to look the other way as they just, conflict of interest. No conflict of interest. We conclude that we've done an investigation. The DA's office has, reviewed this contract, and we're fine with it. Depending on which jurisdiction you're in, most jurisdictions, though, the DA runs also the county civil side of things as well. So they review for the county the civil contracts. They review the contracting process. They also handle disputes. So did your county try and come and take your property recently? Have a word with your DA, because they're probably the ones who are shaking hands in the background saying, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. This is fine. And everybody just passes it along. And guess who suffers the most? It's the local people. And like you were talking about before with your prior DA, it's the police, because it's the police who are the most forefront. They're the most public facing aspect of the DA's office, whether they like it or not. And so when you have the police, being prosecuted by the DA, that should be hint number one, something is wrong.
The police around here, and obviously I'm generalizing, but lots of police and certain police agencies more than others do not trust the district attorney's office. They will prefer charges as misdemeanors that they might otherwise send as felonies, because they know a misdemeanor is going to go to a different prosecutor who they trust. So they won't even charge a felony, because they know nothing's going to happen to it. They'll lower it, charge it as a misdemeanor, which goes to a different court and a different prosecutor, just to keep her and her office from getting their mitts on their case. It's just that bad. The morale among police, because of the district attorney's office, is in the toilet. The morale at the DA's office is in the toilet too, because what kind of message do you send to your prosecutors who are there, day in and day out working for a salary as government servants or public servants on a government salary? What message do you send to them as their leader when you bring in your boyfriend who's never apparently tried a felony case or prosecuted one, and you pay him $250 an hour, $700,000 over the course of a couple of years? What kind of message are you sending to the men and women that work for you, that you pay them to prosecute cases in the courtroom? It's just terrible.
And then why there's a dearth of hiring nationwide in the DA's offices where there shouldn't be. Right? Anyone who's going into litigation, especially in criminal law, should be interested in working at the DA's office. But you see massive dearths in their own hiring practices. They can't fill the offices because they are horrible at managing. They don't know how to be good administrators because they're corrupt. They don't care about managing. They don't care about charging felonies. They don't care about actually convicting people and keeping the public safe. That's the truth. Okay, I'm done.
I'm curious.
Really quick before people go into it. Sorry, I've got to plug the channel, guys. We have 3,300 people watching right now. I promise I'll get to you, Joe. Please consider, if you like this kind of content with all these insanely great lawyers like this. We do it every Friday at noon Eastern time. Consider subscribing. I think you will enjoy it, and I appreciate it very much. There's a lot of new folks here. I hope you do this. Go ahead, Joe.
Okay, so I would certainly agree with Phil that if you watch those closing arguments, especially if you're an attorney and have ever seen the different forms that a judge can ask questions, that sometimes they're probing to sort of figure out, you can almost read that they're probing to figure out how they're going to draft their opinion, because they've often reached their decision by the time you reach closing arguments. And other times they're peppering to basically point out the holes in the claims that you've been making in your arguments. And if you watch that closing, the day of closing arguments, from the outset, the judge definitely started with like, okay, I might not need to look at that evidence even to reach certain conclusions, so let's put that aside for now. And that was evidence which was highly favorable to the defense. And he was basically saying, I might not even need that to get here, so let's just move forward right now, as you know, and focus the argument on the evidence that's been presented. Then when it came to asking questions of the defense, the nature of those questions were really interesting questions, which are fair questions. Like he's like, if when it comes to Bradley, how am I supposed to take the fact that, you know, how would you want me to even use the information with Terrence Bradley, that you wanted me to not believe him when he's on the stand, but you want me to at the same time you want me to believe his texts, which is a weird sort of thing, because when he's under oath is when you want me to disbelieve him, and when he's not under oath is when you want me to believe him. And it is an interesting philosophical conundrum, even though we all can understand that Terrence Bradley was happy to sing like a bird when he wasn't on public camera, but when he was on public camera, he was against it. He also, when the state was giving their closing arguments, it was very obvious every case Adam Abadi brought up, which he was trying to push for conflict of interest, this high standard being the yardstick rather than appearance of impropriety, he kept poking holes in every case that they brought as basically not showing that's the yardstick. He was like, okay, post-conviction, maybe it comes up to that. The cases you're giving me are post-conviction. Isn't that a little bit different when it's post-conviction? That's him basically saying, this is a flaw in your argument, Adam. It doesn't make any sense to say that just because the yardstick is all the way up here after we have a guy who's been convicted by a unanimous jury, that's when to take the case out, you need to have conflict of interest. But pre-conviction, you can understand that we don't want DA proceeding when there's even this appearance of impropriety, and that's what the cases seem to imply. So I agree with you, Phil, that as of the date of closing, Judge McCaffrey was giving every signal in the world that he was granting this motion, and for sure Nathan Wade was gone, and also that Fani Willis was almost certainly gone, and that maybe he would build a Chinese wall around her to keep the DA's office in place. But I am curious about something, and before I get with that big premise, and I'm curious. I assume that's the conclusions that you've been implying so far. But you made one statement, which is a statement a lot of us have concerns about, which is about this judge running against him now, as far as how impactful you think that may be in just scaring him politically, that if he finds against Fani Willis, that will basically signal the end of his political career, and that maybe there'll be some phone call, which is like, look, it's really unfortunate the situation that Fani Willis is in. It's also really unfortunate that you have a judge that decides to run against. If someone's trying to run against you for a judge, and basically frighten him by intimation that if he lets Fani go, this guy might step aside and he'll run unopposed.
I'm sticking with my original theory. If they're going to vote based on race and politics and activism, McAfee's getting booted whether he yeets her or doesn't. And probably if he doesn't yeet her, they'll stab him in the back anyhow. So I think it makes his decision a lot easier, actually, because
what do you think?
He was appointed by Kemp. He's a white male, Catholic, probably public enemy number one, and he's got an activist Jesse Jackson disciple going after him. So if
it's more than that. It's Fani Willis. I'm told, and in my opinion, I think this is true. It's her political machine, her political apparatus that's
propping him up.
That's propping him up. That's helping him out. I mean, she's got voter lists. She's got donor lists. She's got yard sign locations. I'm probably on the list, but she's got all this stuff that she can just hand him and say, "Here, use this." Judges' races are nonpartisan in Georgia, so even if you're actually a Republican or you're actually a Democrat or actually something else, they all get run together in the nonpartisan primary. So you don't have to declare your party. I don't think that really makes sense, but there's no question that McAfee is right-leaning. He was appointed by a Republican governor, Federalist Society, all that. And this other guy, Rainbow Push Coalition background on the other, you got as left as you can get. But they're both running together in the same primary. Willis, on the other hand, she's a Democrat. Her election, she actually has a Democrat opponent in her primary coming up in a couple of months. And of course, she also now has a Republican challenger that I don't think there's any. I think there's only one Republican. So that election would be in the general election in November. But the judge's race is going to be decided, I think, in May. So I agree with, look, David, if this person stands a chance of beating McAfee, he's going to be in the race no matter which way McAfee rules now. And I think that, in a county like Fulton, that Joe Biden carried like 70% to 30% in the last election. It's going to be very, very hard to see. Turnout is going to be key.
Maybe.
A lot of people don't want to turn out for these primaries, but if turnout is reasonable, then it's going to be hard for McAfee to keep his job.
Well, no, but if turnout is minimal, as they typically are, I mean, the machine that Fani has is going to get 5, 7, however many thousands of votes.
Yeah.
Fulton, by the way, Fulton was probably like more like 60-40 than 70-30. It just looked like 70. You're looking at what we've been told, not the actual numbers.
Really quickly, a couple of Rumble rants came in.
I got you.
Rumble rants came in, and I can't put them up on the screen. I need to actually read them out. But $10 from Lord of the Ree, which makes me think it's somebody who likes salty cracker. Happy Friday, all. I uploaded a cover of Free Fallin' by Tom Petty to my music channel, and it's taken off. Almost 1,000 views in less than a week. Long walks music is adequate. Hi, Viva.
I know Lord of the Ree. He's on my channel.
We have a lot of crossover. Mermedia with $10. Thank you guys. I love your analysis. And thank you guys both. And somebody became a supporting member. Mermedia. Is there a separate supporting member on Rumble than locals?
You can. I think you can support directly through locals through Rumble, so they can hit the join button for locals, and then they become a monthly supporter via Rumble.
Okay. So
you can become a monthly supporter on locals directly through the button join on Rumble.
Oh, okay.
Eric, can you bring up that video that I put in the tweet in the private chat? And Phil, I'm going to ask you about this one afterwards. Okay, play this out.
Okay, hang on.
Because I think we caught.
I understand your testimony.
You ready?
Yeah, go for it.
Testimony is you never took a trip to D.C. with Mr. Wade.
That's correct.
Personal or business?
That's correct.
Were you ever in D.C. at the same time as Mr. Wade?
I was not.
Personal or business?
No, me and Mr. Wade have not been to D.C. at the same time.
Remember this.
However, since Mr. Wade has been on this case, he's been to D.C. Since Mr. Wade has been on to this case, I've been to D.C. What has not happened is we have not been in the District of Columbia at the same time. Now, the only thing I'm not sure about with what you asked me is if I've been to DC personally, because I got a lot of personal friends in that area. But I know that I have been to DC. I did an interview at Howard University. I went to DC for that. Seems like I've been to DC one other time. Oh, I went to DC for the Global Summit. Actually, yeah, those were two separate trips.
My next question is based on her opening the door, and therefore I'll just ask it, and Your Honor can decide whether or not it's appropriate. When you went to D.C., did you go to the White House?
I did not go to the White House.
No. Well, apparently I'm going to get the answer anyhow. There you have it. Next question. Okay. When you went to D.C., did you go to the White House?
I did not go to the White House.
So press pause there. Or I guess we could take it out. Bill, there was I don't think the community note has gotten approved. There's an argument that she didn't lie about having gone to the White House because that, if we scroll down, was at the vice president's residence and was not at the White House. So that it wasn't a lie when she said, I didn't go to the White House, given the nature of that question, because the event was at the vice president's residence, not at the White House. And to that, I say bullshit anyhow. But what does everyone think? Is that a distinction without a difference? Is that nonetheless a lie? Is the vice president's residence considered what was meant by the question? Did you go to the White House?
Yeah, it's semantics for sure, and we've certainly seen a lot of this wordsmithing by witnesses in this case. And so, if you look closely at the well, I guess it was in the video we just showed, that the actual, screenshot, the thing that was displayed at the Senate hearing the other day, and I guess in the courtroom, I think it says that the meeting was with V. POTUS, and then I think it may have said like VPR or something like that, Vice Presidential Residence. Yeah, but it's on the White House visitor log, which maybe the White House visitors log is meant to keep track of people that go to either of those places. So it is a matter of semantics, but clearly the question was meant to get at whether or not there's been contacts with the Biden administration. And clearly we see now that there has been, and we know that from Nathan Wade's business, his billing records as well, that they met in like offsite locations so that he wouldn't show up on the White House visitors logs himself. So the bigger issue of coordination between the White House counsel's office or the White House in general, or Biden or Harris or any of them, and what Fani Willis is doing, all that is something that I promise you that the lawyers are looking at. That the Congress is looking at it. The Jim Jordan's committee that has oversight of the White House counsel, they've subpoenaed documents from Willis. I don't think she's provided them yet, but definitely coordination, collusion, to borrow a phrase, between Willis
racketeering
and
almost.
That's it all sounds like a racket to me. But yeah, that's obviously going to be something, and maybe that's going to be the focus of the next big round of litigation. We'll have to wait and see.
Practically everything she's charged Trump with, she herself
he's
has
doing.
engaged in. Yeah, whether you look at the purported lies, the alleged lies that he's told, the obstruction of justice, and just yesterday trying to get out of this is the irony of her having the audacity as a state district attorney to think that she, and I guess purportedly the thousands of district attorneys across the country, all have the right to hail the president of the United States before them and hold him accountable for not following their local state law. And that should be a yardstick that presidents who are, appointed, who are designated by the Constitution, elected under the Constitution, that she has the authority over them, yet her own freaking state board of ethics has no authority over her because she's purportedly a constitutional officer.
No. Let me explain that if I can.
Please
so
do.
You've got a state board of ethics that does have some authority over her because as it pertains to any campaign finance issues. The local, the Fulton County Board of Ethics, and I actually, this may not be popular to people watching this or in our chat right now, but I think Willis is correct on this. She is not an employee of the county the way the director of the Parks and Recreation is. Okay, so in other words, she can't be fired by the Board of Commissioners or anybody else. She can only be fired by the voters. Okay, so she answers to the voters, not to the county. So the county ethics board is the ethics, I guess, enforcement mechanism for county employees, and she's not. The office of district attorney is just like the office of sheriff and other offices that are created by the state constitution, and that's why she says she's a constitutional officer. She is correct. The office of DA is a constitutional office, so the county board has no authority to discipline her. There's nothing they can do to her.
Who would? In Canada, we have the Conflict of Interest Act, which applies to politicians. So it doesn't remove them from office, but it issues sanctions that then voters presumably vote. So
we may get one of those laws here in Georgia. That's part of what the Georgia Senate that's looking into this is. They can do legislation in the legislature, and they can tighten down on conflict of interest. But the state bar of Georgia can investigate attorney misconduct, whether it's lying in court or anything else. You have the county commission that it can't discipline her, but they can certainly control her budget. So they have some role to play here. You've got potentially law enforcement agencies that could look into this. The attorney general, for example, if there's a belief that crimes were committed, then the Georgia Bureau of Investigation could investigate those crimes. And if it's uncovered that there was a crime, then prosecutions can be brought. But it's the only thing, it's just this one county board of ethics, because she's not a county employee. She doesn't answer to the county. So because she's not a county employee, it's not within their jurisdiction.
So let's move on to one thing I want to say. Let's just say it goes as Phil has said it's going to go, and that there's going to be a granting of the motion to disqualify. Where do we go from there? Do you have any perspective on appointing another lead prosecutor, shifting county? I mean, that's the most interesting thing. Is Trump going to come in and use some of these defenses that we're talking about that have constitutional import? Where do you see it going?
So are you asking if she gets disqualified and removed, but the case is still there? Is that your question?
There's a couple questions. One is there's the option to dismiss the indictment entirely. Right. There is the option to disqualify her and then just assign it to someone else to prosecute. What happens in either case?
Yeah. All right. So let's take the situation where Willis gets disqualified. If she's disqualified, everybody who works under her is disqualified because their authority stems from her authority. So if she has none, they have none. So that would lead, and let's just say the judge doesn't dismiss the indictment and it becomes like an orphan indictment. A couple of years ago, the law changed in Georgia. It used to be the attorney general would assign some other prosecutor to take a case. A lot of times prosecutors will recuse themselves. Let's say I'm the prosecutor and my secretary gets a DUI. I'm not going to be able to prosecute her case. I'm going to say I've got a conflict and I'm going to ask somebody else to come in and do it. These things happen a lot. Okay. So in that case, though, now it's called the Prosecuting Attorneys Council of Georgia. It's a separate state agency. And they make the decision whether to appoint somebody, and if so, who. But they can't just force it on another prosecutor. So the question is, what other prosecutor would want this hot bag of trash? And I don't know that there's anybody that does, because if it's so tainted by a conflict of interest and all the things that Fani Willis has done, as a practical matter, any other prosecutor's got to start over from scratch, and they don't have the money or the budget for that. So they just don't want it. So I think it's going to be hard. And to illustrate that point, the Georgia Lieutenant Governor, Burt Jones, he was one of the ones that Willis wanted to make a defendant in this case. But back before the criminal indictment, another judge in Fulton County disqualified Fani Willis from taking any action, even to investigate Burt Jones, because of a conflict of interest. She had participated in or hosted or gave money or something involving a fundraiser for the guy that was running against Burt Jones for the lieutenant governor's job. And so the judge was like, what are you thinking? That was incredibly stupid. You're off the case. And so Willis's office sent that whole thing over to the Prosecuting Attorneys Council, as is the process. And to this day, they still haven't taken any action on it. So I don't know that there's going to be even the will by the state to refer this case out. So even if the judge does not dismiss this indictment, it may, as a practical matter, be gone. I hope that makes sense. That was a long answer to a short question.
Great answer.
Worth mentioning also that Barnes, the initial person that Fani approached in the beginning, declined to take the case. He says, because I had mouths to feed and whatever. Other smarter people opined that he didn't want to touch this hot mess in the first place, and he declined it even before the conflict of interest arose.
Yeah, well, I know Roy Barnes. He's a local lawyer where I practice in Marietta. We see him around a lot. He's the former governor as well of Georgia. He's not stupid. He doesn't want to. Nobody wants to tackle this, really. It's just too much. Interestingly, about Roy Barnes's testimony, the prosecutors thought that they were going to make a point with Barnes that Nathan Wade wasn't the first choice, but look, Wade was in the room. He was in the room. Barnes said when he went down there to talk about it. So Wade was already on the team. And as we know, Wade's not the only special prosecutor. She's got 2 or 3 more. And so there's no reason to believe that it's true that Willis wanted Barnes was her first choice over and above Nathan Wade, because Wade was already on the team when this whole thing began.
Hey, Phil, are your primaries open, or are they limited to the party?
No, they're open. Yeah, they're open.
Okay. Well, that makes a big difference then, right? Like you said, a lot of people got involved in that primary because they're closed here. Like, you can't be in the other party and vote in the other party's primary in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Phil, have you ever done any work for the state? Because Ashley Merchant at the Senate hearing was testifying in part that she's seen how bills are always haggled down. And clearly his bills were not
court-appointed work, criminal indigent defense work.
Because the block billing there, to as an attorney, I found it to be so gross. Because I know that I could never submit a bill which lists 8 hours. That everything she does, everything he did took 8 hours. Doesn't matter who it is. It was exactly 8 hours, not 8.5 hours, not seven. It's like
no details, no
details at all. And you would need, if you're an attorney, when you are filling out a bill and you want someone to pay that bill, they will just say, F you, I'm not paying this because I don't believe you did the work. And if you write research, you need to write down the topics you researched, what the issue of law is, maybe list a case or two that you found and just to give some sort of idea so the person feels like, oh, okay, he or she spent 3 hours, 3.2 hours doing research on this topic, and that was the net result. Sometimes it's positive, sometimes it's useless, but that's work that we spend and can bill for. But his is just everything is 8 hours meeting. Don't even tell you who I'm meeting with. Don't tell you who I'm on the phone with. Why we're having the meeting. What the objective of the meeting is. It's just it was a joke, and the fact that it wasn't haggled down to me reeks of just sort of this.
Well, let me ask you this: do you think that's theft? Would that be theft of government funds?
It's RICO criminality. Like it's and apparently only done with Nathan Wade, Anna Cross, and Floyd. She said they billed under 100,000 each for the work that they were doing, and they were just as active as Nathan Wade.
It's fraud too. Yeah.
It is fraud, and that's why no regular client would pay it.
Well,
and
this is why Ashley in her original motion filed back, I guess it's in January now. At this point, she suggests in her original pleading that when she alleged the affair, this was before Willis had conceded the existence of it. She said that this might be the felony, a federal felony offense of honest services fraud, which basically it's the situation that we see when somebody who works for the government, they're in charge of giving out contracts. They give a contract to somebody and then they get a kickback from the contractor. That's honest services fraud. And so Ashley said in her pleadings that this may very well constitute the felony offense of honest services fraud. So there's really a lot of substance here to all of this. There's so many different ways this cookie could crumble. We just don't yet know. But I do think that it stinks to high heaven that you can pay somebody this much money on a no bid contract that you award due to nepotism, and then you personally benefit because you get to travel all over the world for it. Because of it. It just creates a situation where the court in my backyard here is the laughing stock of the world.
It is, and it's ironic that it's sort of like the whole with respect to the appearance of impropriety. This is because a large part of this hearing, the appearance of impropriety has swelled from being, as far as on the appearance magnitude, it has swelled from being this molehill into Kilimanjaro. I mean, literally, as you said, the entire world has the appearance now that Fulton County is just a hotbed of corruption.
But it's only because you guys got caught. That's all. You just had Fani Willis. She went after too big of a whale. Okay, there's blood in the water.
Danny, stick with this story. Stop making this a national story. Stick with this story.
I wish I could. I really wish I could. But I'm just saying, if I'm seeing the corruption in my town, Steve, I'm sure you're seeing it in your town. Ian, you tell me, is your DA completely sparkly clean? Are they a good DA? Are they doing their jobs for your community? Yeah. Okay. It's not that I'm making it a national story, Joe. It's that it is a national story, and it's time that we start investigating. That's all I'm saying.
Well, and the reason I ask about the primary is because we have a good DA, but if the primary had gone the other direction, and who really pays attention to primaries, this would not be the case. So, yeah, I mean, DA offices around the country have been moved in a direction that is just unfathomable.
By the way, folks, I got to jump in. Sorry, but self-promotion here. I can't believe we are at over 4,000 people watching this live. Love it if you subscribe here, but check out all these awesome lawyers. All you have to do is go in the description and click their names and go give these guys some subscriptions. I'm serious. Southern Law. Great channel. Danny just crossed 10,000. Joe is creeping in fast on 100,000. Ian on his second channel is kicking ass. He's already got over 100,000 on the first one. And then, of course, everybody knows Viva Fry. I'm sure you're already subscribed to Viva Fry, but 10 of you who aren't, I'm sure you would love to have you.
Not that it makes a difference. I don't care about YouTube, but I just hit 600,000 subs on YouTube and 405,000 Yeah, the Fani Willis case. My goodness, it's the gift.
Oh
that
my
keeps on
God.
giving. It's wild.
It's the best. It's like the best case since death.
I feel dirty because all you have to do put out something reasonably value added, and it'll get traction on YouTube. And I'm covering the other stuff as well.
No, I reject what you just said, because what you put out there with the whole White House thing and that clip that you shared, that was an awesome catch that you had. That you found. Well, you found that nugget where she said, "I never went to the White House," and you had and we have clear.
No, Phil tagged me. It's like, I'm pretty sure I heard her say that. I didn't appreciate what we were looking at when Ashley Merchant was testifying. Yeah, I put out a brief summary of the Fani Willis ethics complaint not being heard yesterday, talking to the camera with my stupid dog for 5 minutes, 120,000 views. It leads me to believe that YouTube is using the Fani Willis as something of a distraction so that we don't pay attention to the border crisis. I can see now how YouTube is driving people there, because I put out videos on Canadian law. No traction. Nobody seems to care
because it's Canadian law.
Oh, and follow Phil on X. I'm not trying to leave him out. He doesn't have a YouTube channel.
Phil's
I do, but I post.
Okay. Well, follow him too.
more marketing. But no, I don't. I'm thinking about getting one of these started up, and we'll talk to you later about that. But
sure, I can help you out.
Phil, I've been live streaming every moment of this Fani Willis, as has a few others like Viva.
Yeah.
But I would really love to get you on sometime. If you could add me on Twitter, I'd really appreciate it. On Twitter, I'm known as @thefollowingpro. And I think I tagged you at one point to
okay, yeah, absolutely.
And Phil Phil on Twitter
me as well. Yeah.
Yes, Phil Holloway, HOLLOWAYESQ, as in Esquire.
Yep, it's right underneath my picture on the screen.
No, yeah, you might want to get rid of the follow me on X and just put that because it doesn't overlap, so people can see it.
Oh, hold on, I can edit it right now.
Yeah, just say on X as or something, and it should fit in. But I really want people, seriously, check out all the channels. I love having you here, but these people make it possible to have. I'll be humble. The best damn legal panel on the planet.
It's a damn good day. I didn't realize this button that says "Stream to your audience."
Yeah. Oh, I was looking at that too.
What does that do? I feel like the Fifth Element. Don't push this button. What happens if I do that?
Suddenly go on your channel, so they'll be watching us on your channel.
Okay, so forget. I'll do it next time. It's too late now. But
basically, we'd be stealing views from Eric.
Well, would it, or would it be?
What about on X?
Yeah, it's on X right now.
Well,
if you want to follow me,
X.
It is on X right now. Under @Hunley Eric, next to my name. If you guys prefer watching on X, we do have a couple hundred people actually watching.
No, Eric, I was just going to tell you about this. So if you pull this up. Can you pull up your real-time view on X? X has done something very, very suspicious. I don't want to say sneaky because that implies ill intent. It's either a glitch or they've started.
Hold on, I'm
counting viewers differently. It looks like the live viewers are the number you see there, but that seems to be aggregate impressions and not live viewers.
That could be. I don't know.
No, well, it's weird. I brought it to the tweet. Does not seem to get any traction when I put it out, and I'm not saying that Elon is suppressing it, but you'll notice that the number only goes up. The numbers have been I was on X yesterday. It got to like 5,000 views, but I get 100 people watching on X at least before they made this change. And so you'll notice it only goes up. It never goes down, and it seems to be live impression aggregate and not actually live viewers. And I think it's somewhat misleading.
That could be. I don't know. I know that I have. This stream does pretty well on X, and it'll get a couple thousand sometimes. Like when I check it later,
views, but not concurrent viewers.
So, can I ask Phil a question about what's going on with Fani? Which is Phil said that a lot of people came out on the primary to get rid of the old person who was stale, prosecuting police and stuff. So, aside from the Trump situation, did she correct any of those things that voters were hoping that she'd do? Did she make any relationships with law enforcement better? Do anything good? Nobody here is happy with how she's handling the Trump case, but what was the result of getting her instead of the other guy?
And catching up on the COVID backlog also.
The Fulton County court system is still just a dreadful disaster. And before I finish answering that, David, Don says in the chat, crossing streams, don't push the button because you'll be crossing streams. And you
Never. It would be bad.
You don't want to cross streams.
It would be bad.
You know what? It might be legitimate, David. And I'll tell you why. Because if I look right now, let me see if I can share it. Look on the right. 38,000 plus are watching Tucker Carlson.
No, they're not. Go click on it.
Yeah,
it's impressions, man. It's not viewers. You'll see it
I
never goes down.
Well, I don't know, but that seems like the right amount of numbers for Tucker Carlson.
No,
Alex Jones. I mean, he gets that many. That's a pretty good average.
You'll see. Just keep watching it. The number never fluctuates down. It only continues to go up. And I did the live yesterday during my stream where the number on Twitter only went up. The number on Rumble went down. And then when I said, winding down the stream, obviously it goes down on Rumble, goes down on YouTube, and continues to go up even after the stream is over.
Yeah.
There they go, 39,000. It's either a glitch or it's an attempt to make things look more successful on Twitter. But it has to be a glitch because I think it creates exposure. If I'm Ian, you tell me if it, like, from an advertising perspective, if someone's going to be mistaken to thinking they have like 40,000 live viewers on Twitter, and then say, well, now I'll charge you X for advertising space. I think it's an exposure issue, and they better fix the glitch.
I think it's intentional.
Yeah, they definitely got to change it.
It doesn't say live views. It says just views, which could be aggregate.
They want to start rewarding time on the platform, no problem. But they really are focused on impressions. And as you guys know, as well as I have been doing this for years, impressions don't mean shit technically, pardon my language. It's really views. And YouTube, again, not to congratulate YouTube, but they really kind of figured it out as far as views go. They set specific standards that fluctuate over time about what it counts as. And we'll recognize that views are way more important than someone scrolling through and just seeing my face and then moving on. So at some point in time, if Elon is really serious with rewarding their creators, which I'm not exactly sure if he is at this point, they'll move away from impressions. They're now moving away from likes, which I think is great. But
depends on the day, Ian.
Yeah.
Honestly, with Elon, it really depends on the day. The dude kind of all over the place. All right, so let's.
Phil,
is there any other case we want to get to, or have we wrapped up with Fani? Because I feel like we're getting straight on.
Fani will have a judgment by next week, Phil, if the judge renders it within the time frame. He predicted 2 weeks when he's going to issue his ruling.
Well, he may decide to go ahead and do it now. I think he was waiting. He said 2 weeks because he knew that qualifying was coming up this week. Qualifying ended at noon today.
Oh, Friday afternoon delayed. Come on.
Maybe he's just going to go ahead and pull the ripcord and do it now. I don't know what it's going to be. I still think that he should disqualify her. That's what the ruling should be. But I gave up. I'm a cynic at this point. I gave up a long time ago on trusting judges or juries to do what I think is the right thing. But he's an honorable guy. He's a brand new judge. He had only been on the bench for 2 or 3 months when this indictment against Trump and everybody fell in his lap. And I think he probably was sort of stunned by it, but he comes across as being somebody who's thoughtful. I see him taking a lot of notes. He's got a pretty good judicial temperament. He's a lot nicer to people who misbehave in his courtroom than I would be. So he certainly is well suited from a personality perspective to be a good judge. But he's an unknown commodity as far as his rulings. He's not been around long enough to have anything that's gone up on appeal to have to get reversed or anything like that. We just don't know.
He seems to be so smart. He seems to be, and that just as far as instantly dissecting arguments that are being made and making counterpoints and raising interesting like legal philosophical issues and making calls that I don't agree with every call he made. I certainly wouldn't have scrapped down the entire scrapped away a lot of the other issues that were raised in the initial motion, because this whole hearing, the audience might not be aware of this whole hearing was fixated exclusively on the impact of the romantic relationship as far as creating an appearance of impropriety or conflict of interest. But there was a whole bunch of other issues that Ashley Merchant raised, which came up a little bit more at the Senate hearing, relating to the whole hiring process, her failure to go through the proper hiring process, and the appointment of Wade individually based on despite a lack of apparent resume to have a capacity to handle this. 0 prosecutions in his history, and he's the first person he's ever trying to prosecute in his life is the former president of the United States. So that, and he doesn't seem to know anything at all about RICO, And she's relying on the fact that this guy was a traffic court judge for a dozen years. Well, you were a traffic court judge for a dozen years. Clearly, you can handle prosecuting a RICO case.
Well, can I talk about that traffic court judgeship? Even the chief judge of the Marietta Municipal Court is a part-time judge. He happens to have a full-time criminal defense practice, but it's a part-time judgeship. Sometimes he can't be there, and when he's not there, he's got to bring in substitute judges. And so Nathan was a part-timer. In that, so when she touts him as being a judge for 10 years, it's extremely misleading. It may be technically true, but it doesn't describe the reality of it. I think I may have seen him maybe twice or 3 times sitting in that court, because that's one of the ones I go to over the course of the 10 or so years he was on the list of substitute judges there. So, and by the way, when you're there, and I've done it, I've substituted for judges. I don't call myself a former judge, because all you're doing is you're signing plea deals, you're signing the back of traffic tickets on traffic cases and shuffling paper. So it's not like he's making, big rulings on big cases or anything like that. It's it's just paper pushing is all that it is.
He was a superstar. How's I pulled my mic. I'll figure it out afterwards.
It's a little weird. It's like
Tim now?
It's like no, it's like a computer.
You're on a different
it's
mic.
like a computer.
You're on the internal mic.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll say one thing and then I might
talk about the proof of Adderall shortage nationwide that was the State of the Union last night.
Oh my God!
You want to talk about the State of the Union?
I'm intrigued because I never watch it. It makes me nauseated, even if it's my presidential, guy, whether it's my guy or not. It always makes me sick. It's so much to do about nothing. I think we should go back to writing letters. Otherwise, bring in popcorn, let Congress have at the president. Let's have some fun at the next State of the Union. That's
off my lawn.
Yeah, like have people literally throwing popcorn and standing up and shouting. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
That was the most entertaining part of the entire thing, was when the Republicans were yelling at him and he actually was engaging them until his earpiece was like, stop it, cut, look to your right, don't look left, look right, don't, no.
He didn't engage a Gold Star family member.
Are you serious?
Yeah, he just arrested him.
He arrested him.
He charged him. Not, by the way, is my mic a little better now?
He got taken out all the way and arrested. A guy who's lost his son.
Not a guy who lost his son. A guy who lost his son to Biden's. I believe it was his incompetent pullout from Afghanistan, right?
Yes, but he lost his son.
But at the hands of that nincompoop, they arrested him and charged him with some stupid charge. I said, okay, arrest him, take him out, and then release him without charges. No, they had to go full Putin. Or maybe not full
Maui
Putin.
Protesters last night?
Maui?
Yeah. None?
When you say Maui, are you referring to the fact that they use the tiki torch of pineapple law, but rather than Supreme Court law? Or are you talking about the fires of Maui? What are you referring to?
The fires on Maui and the lack of federal response and the lack of federal funds that ended up going out to Maui, and the fact that the feds are still preventing families from being able to access their own land so that they can at least, they're not even allowing insurance companies to bring their agents out to the property so that they can get a quote or an estimate. So they're not allowing payouts at all, basically.
Somebody's correcting me saying that Mike Johnson did it.
Okay.
Did what?
I don't know. The arresting. Well, either way, it is a pretty embarrassing debacle.
No, Mike, why would it be Rep. Johnson that would have the authority to arrest?
He's the Speaker of the House.
Well, the Speaker of the House is not a cop. Neither is the Sergeant at Arms. The Capitol Police are there, and they're cops.
Capitol Police. I mean, they make the decision. But let me. I say the highlight or the low light of the night was Biden's response to being heckled by Marjorie Taylor Greene. Here, let me give this to you. I disdain is an understatement. Here, Eric, play that video where he gets heckled, and then in order to show how on the spot he is. I need to find out if the token thing that he brought up with
a political win for me. Political win.
Yeah, I hear it. With Lake and Riley's name, I think that's what I wonder if that's what Marjorie Taylor Greene gave him. That I need to find
win. He viewed it as a political win for me and a political loser for him.
Oh, hold on.
It's not about him. It's not about me. I'd be a winner. Not really.
Say it. Look at it. Let me look around. I came prepared.
See, this is what I want.
Lincoln Riley.
Lincoln
an
Riley.
innocent young woman who was killed
Lincoln
by an illegal.
By an illegal.
That's right. But how many of thousands of people being killed by illegals?
But
Well,
how
my
many
parents
thousands of
say,
people are being
I
killed by
having
legals,
lost
he
children
says.
myself. I understand.
But
But
how
look,
many people have
if
been
we
killed
change
by
the dynamic
legals?
at the border, political win.
I transcribed it.
F?
Somebody
but
slipped
it's
in
like-
the red pill.
Did people? I think people might not have. I mean, I thought everybody would have caught this for those who watched it. And I was like, I got up in the morning, like 4 a.m. I was like just deeply dismayed by this. Yeah, sure, she got killed by an illegal. He can't say illegal immigrant, illegal alien. But how?
Oh
many
no, because
legal-
remember they changed the term.
Yeah, they're
Homeland
undocumented
Security
migrants.
said it's no longer acceptable.
Yeah.
The impeached guy said, "Oh hell no, I'm impeached, but I'm going to change the language. Screw
No,
you
no,
all."
yeah, they're uncitizen citizens, so that's it. They're unrecognized citizens.
But they were already changed the language. It was illegal aliens years ago. I mean, give me a break.
Can we
No, but he
just
said-
like put this on C-SPAN and like do pay-per-view C-SPAN and hand them all weapons and make it like the purge, right?
Oh, that'd be
like
great. Yeah.
the semi 4-year purge. Just let them have at it and let us all sit back and enjoy watching the destruction. Because I mean, what else are they doing, right? There's no substantive change that's going to come from this. Everybody's going to say, "Oh, your guy looks like a loser. Your guy looks like a." And
No, he stood up for an hour and a half. Everyone's
Can I,
giving him.
by the way, I hate to interrupt with this. Can I just protect the audience from a spammer, John Dalton, who's a lawyer and has come into many chats talking about how his daughter and he contacted the police hours ago and simping for money and asking family to help out. So I'm telling you right now, if this has happened to him today, it's also happened to him at least a dozen times that he and his daughter have run out of gas. So I'm going to urge you all to make sure you steer clear of John Dalton. Because
Joe, thanks for that, and I want to let
I
everybody
knew
know.
you were the one who was about to send him money because that's the nature of how
I'm
nice
out
you
of
are.
gas. I'm out of gas, so please send the money to me, and I will fill the tank up with my vehicle. Thank you.
I agree with Danny. Like these State of the Union addresses, even when it's someone you like, they're like a circus, just clapping seals, ovations every 5 minutes. Looking at Kamala Harris get up and it's so fake, it's so phony, it's so contrived, it's so superficial, and they say nothing of substance. The only good thing, I mean, in fairness, Joe Biden didn't do as badly as I thought he was going to do. He made it through the night.
Oh, the cocaine and Adderall helps.
Yep.
So now we know why there's a shortage. That's all. I just wanted highlights from you guys. Thank you. Please continue.
That is
No,
the
that-
first,
that-
by the way. I've never had a spammer like or somebody begging on the channel. Something new
well,
all the time.
We actually we had an incident. Not it was a misunderstanding where someone shared a link of a scam where someone was asking for Bitcoin, and then someone else thought it was a legit like buying tickets via Bitcoin, and then got screwed. But the heartlessness to say like, yeah, she got killed by an illegal, but how many thousands are being killed by legals? Like, all right, don't worry about it because we got crime also from legal citizens. So
And I've seen others from the left, like I saw like David Pakman, for example, trying to make a point, which I don't believe is true. I think they manipulate the statistics that illegal aliens are less as a percentage are less likely to commit crimes than citizens of the United States.
They've committed a crime by definition. They're already
their existence here is a crime.
Let's focus on the violent crimes, and
Okay.
just to try to give whatever level of credence his argument can have. And the logic that he promotes for it is that they're afraid of getting caught, so that's why they're going to steer clear of doing anything that's going to call attention to their illegal presence here. This is such a twisted way of looking at it, because the whole point to the fact that they're illegal aliens is that you're not supposed to be here. So even if you're creating as a population less crime than citizens, if you commit one crime, if there's one crime, which obviously there's a lot more than that. We've look at Lake and Riley and countless other stories that we've heard about where people, illegals beating up cops in New York and fleeing to California. I mean, crazy stories that we're seeing. But even if there was only one crime, the point is, this is not, I don't care if as a percentage, they're not as dangerous potentially as American citizens. It's an aggregate of more crime that should not be here at all. Citizens have a right to be here. We have to deal with that problem. Why should we increase whatever level problem is, even if it's at 1/10 the percentage of a rate that citizens are committing crime? That doesn't matter.
No, but Joe, it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't pass a basic smell test. You have people who are here illegally who can't work necessarily, don't have a place to stay, end up on the streets, end up struggling to find food. What happens? You end up necessarily turning to some form of crime, and you have some that are just, I don't want to pull a Trump, some just criminals to begin with. But even in the best of circumstances, you got people who come and they don't have work, they don't have a place to stay, they don't have a stable life, and they end up in circumstances that will promote criminality. And so I don't believe the statistic, period, because I think it's a bunch of lies. The way you can use numbers to prove anything, basic common sense says it's not a stable lifestyle to begin with that necessarily would lend itself to resulting in criminality.
And by the way, I think that there was a bill that was passed in the House this week, which is that anyone who's basically committed who's committed a violent crime should be detained by the police. That 170 Democrats voted against.
You got to know what else is in the bill, but
that's true. That's a fair point. But it's astonishing.
The way that people frame those headlines so they can then make it look like, oh, they shut down a bill that's called this, but then has a ton of other crap in it. They do it to Republicans, and I presume it goes the other way as well.
The last night's gaslighting from Biden, where he was basically saying, we need a comprehensive bill. We passed we tried pushing through a bipartisan bill that was the strictest bill in the history of America.
I want a comprehensive sentence from it, let alone a bill.
It's such a load of crap. That bill basically says that if 5,000 people cross every day for a week, that we now going to automatically trip into this emergency border situation. But in an emergency border situation, what happens is, by law, there's a minimum threshold that America must allow in every single day, which in the aggregate comes out to 42,000 people per month. That by law,
spending bill.
Even when the law is in effect, by law, the president must allow in nearly 500,000 people per year and cannot stop it. It would be illegal to stop it. So that means if Trump wins, I just want to point this out, that if this bill were to ever pass and Trump were to win and he figured out a way to actually close down the border, we can be positive that he would basically then be forced to allow in 42,000 illegal aliens every single month. It was not a close the border. And if you do this, then I'll actually take steps to close the border. It is, we are going to compel Trump to keep this border open, even if he ends up winning and taking office.
And teacher, just to add to that, and then to give exclusive jurisdiction to the courts of DC to contest any part of that law exclusively. Joe Biden's damn right. That law gave him powers that he doesn't have now, not as relates to the border, but as relates to any contestation that the state might have. It was a border load of crap, that bill.
It's all deeply concerning to me, all of this, because when you have presidents and you have this swing back and forth and you don't have Congress taking accountability, what's going to happen is that the people who are legal immigrants or who are trying to follow the process. And when I say trying to follow the process, I mean trying to. Have any of you guys practiced in immigration law? Because it is a kangaroo court. It is backwards. The presumption is that you are guilty until you can prove that you're worthy of receiving an immigration benefit. So what's going to happen is people who are trying to comply with the process are the easy pickings. They're going to be the ones to be deported first because they can be identified. So it's like, oh, okay, we want to show deportations. We want to, rack up our numbers and prove to the public that we care about immigration. Well, you know what they're going to do? They're going to go through every single green card holder who's applying for citizenship and start finding ways to deport them. That's exactly what Trump
By the way,
did
that's
the
by
last
design.
time.
By the way,
Exactly
that's
what he did
by
last time.
design, I think. Like
Yes.
right now, they're going to make it even worse because the people who are coming here legally will tend to swing right because they're like, we waited in line, we're law and order, we believe in this country, we did the right thing. The left doesn't want those people in. They want the illegals in because they're hoping to get children born. And at the minimum, everybody keeps forgetting. You're like, well, wait a minute. Why would they want them here if they can't vote? Well, they don't have to vote. All they have to do is be counted and you get a congressional seat out of it.
Yep.
And
they don't want Viva
it's long
phrase.
strategy.
They don't want Vivas. Okay. What they want is the actual terrorists who are bragging about being terrorists, hopping the border and staying here. They want them because they are untraceable. They're untrackable. They're free labor. It's creating a subclass in the United States. It is creating a slave labor class in the United States who do not have rights as citizens because they will never be citizens. And they know that. And both parties benefit from it.
Both do.
So
Yes. The McConnells love it too.
When it comes to this particular issue, I am extremely nonpartisan. I don't trust either of these mother effers. They all benefit from this, and nobody wants to talk about the dirty secret. And the dirty secret is that this is state-sanctioned human trafficking. That's exactly.
Damn it, Danny. That's first of all, I have to check out anyhow, but damn it, that was good.
Thank you.
I like
You
and
should
agree
come
with
on.
Danny.
You should
Booyah.
have me on your show.
Absolutely. Now I don't want to start the Exodus, but I got to go get.
Actually, I'm going to wrap things up anyway.
Wow.
So
okay, I feel bad.
What do you
now,
have
'cause I-
going? No. We're running behind. We're going to stop
Diva's
at around
always
90
Moses.
minutes. So.
He always
I know,
plays
like,
Moses. Every Friday he plays Moses. He's like,
This
I don't want to start
stream
the
is
Exodus,
over.
But,
Yeah, well,
but I
you know,
can tell
he's
you,
the celebrity.
Pharaoh, Eric, that
600,000 guy is going to lead the way, of course. So, David, with your 600,000 subscribers on YouTube, what do you have going on?
I might go live today. I might be a little tired, but Sunday night show with Viva Barnes and streaming next week. We'll see what happens. The news does not stop happening, so stay tuned.
All right, Phil Holloway with a soon-to-be Rumble channel, it appears from the background chat. What do you have going?
There's some streaming show tonight that does something. I think it's called maybe Freeform Friday. A couple of unknowns has asked me about dropping by. I might join those guys and talk about some of the same stuff later tonight. But I got to get a nap in. It was last night was one of those nights. It was date night with the wife, and I went out a little longer than I wanted to, so I got to take a nap.
Well, I'll let you to it. Steve, you've been talking our ear off as usual. So tell us what you have going on.
Hey, man, I learned a lot in this stream. So I got to be on it, but also got to experience it. So it's been a lot of fun. I've been doing shorts this week and probably keep doing that just to give people quick updates on some of the criminal cases that we're following. And maybe do a longer video on some things if I see something that's worth doing that on that other people haven't covered.
All right. And I want to remind everybody, while we're here again, please subscribe here. Obviously, I would love that, but consider checking out these other channels and subscribing. All you have to do is click their names in the chat and it'll take you right to their channel. You just hit subscribe, whatever, check out what they have going on. Danny, what do you have going?
So I'm covering P. Diddy, What the Hills, and of course, Fani Willis. We're going to do a recap / catch up on Fani Willis because I was covering the Rust trial daily. So we're going to do that tonight and then probably P. Diddy tomorrow. You guys are all invited to my 10,000 subscriber stream. I'm so
That's
stoked.
so awesome.
I'm so stoked. I'm so blessed.
5-figure Danny.
I'm just so blessed to have the followers that I do and the subscribers that I do. So you guys come check out my channel. We have a ton of fun. You get blessings, you get curses, unless of course you're like Joe, then Joe has a competing cult, but not a cult, but he's not cool enough to be considered a cult. But if you guys want to be a part of a good cult, come and check out Danny on Direct. We have a ton of fun over there.
All right. Now, traditionally, whenever we have Joe on, we give him the last word. That's why he gets moved around to another location to where I can always circle around and we can end with Joe pimping his products and, of course, giving us a word of wisdom or at least a word.
Right. So my name is Joe Neerman, aka Good Logic. I am a New York litigator, and some of you might not have it marked on your calendars yet, but you will soon. That the New York criminal trial brought by Alvin Bragg against Donald Trump is set to commence on March 25th, which is 2 weeks from this Monday. And I'll tell you, I'm a New York litigator. We don't know if it's going to be live streamed yet or not. If it's live streamed, I've certainly been covering every moment of this. And if it's not live streamed, I will be going down to the courthouse because I got fresh off not just my attorney badge to allow me to get in, but apparently in New York courts, for one reason or another, they don't trust us as officers of the court. They give greater trust to media.
They don't trust you, Joe.
No, I guess that's technically true. But now they're forced to because I got my stupid press pass here to show people that I genuinely am really, really, really important and have filled with integrity of any other news journalist. So,
well, Joe, if you would run for office, you could be the trifecta of the most hated three professions at the same time.
Yes, that would basically, it would be the trifecta right there. So I urge you to check out my content, Good Logic. It's on Rumble, it's on YouTube. It's and you can follow me at The Following Pro on X. So, but I'm going to basically I'm getting into my Trump New York trial mode starting next week. So if you follow me there, I'd really appreciate it. Just as far as finishing up here, one thing that, and perhaps something that could be critical in this whole Fani Willis case that people, I don't think they've really even thought about at all,